Stephen Curry was part of that pitch meeting. I'm told the plan in that scenario would have been for her to be a part of Under Armour and Curry brand and possibly wear Curry brand. Steph Curry actually FaceTimed into the meeting, talked to Caitlin Clark.
The amount of attention that she has gained over the course of these last couple of years, every building she goes into, there's a different energy. Like, it's great for her, great for women's basketball.
Have you reached out to her at all? Or?
I have, but
During her first year in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark has exceeded expectations in every regard and reached superstardom faster than anyone predicted, but she is yet to get full recognition from her own sponsors. Despite signing her to a record-breaking deal before the season started, Nike has done little to promote Clark or capitalize on her unprecedented fame for a female player. That's quite unusual, especially since the company has a long-standing relationship with Clark and was among the first to stand behind her. This Nike TV commercial from Caitlin's college days is a great example of how a big sponsor can affect a player's media profile, but there hasn't been any similar effort since Caitlin has joined the WNBA. To make matters worse, Nike still hasn't lived up to the promise to release Clark's signature shoe, even though this was an essential element of the 8-year, $28 million endorsement deal. The company is being strangely passive at the worst possible time, and may be mishandling the most valuable basketball contract it signed in a decade. Back around the WNBA draft, the deal between Nike and Caitlin Clark was seen as a big step forward for the women's game. At $3.5 million per season, it was the largest shoe contract in history for a female basketball player and nearly doubled the NIL deal she had in college, not to mention making her 5-figure WNBA salary seem like pocket change. The deal caused quite a bit of excitement and was widely reported in the media. It made sense that the athletic apparel company that was associated with some of the biggest names in basketball, from Jordan to LeBron to Luka Doncic, would take the lead and claim the most exciting player on the female side. It was clear that Nike would need to break the bank to keep Clark during the WNBA stage of her career, and it stepped up when it counted by offering a record-breaking sum. It all seemed like a match made in heaven that was destined to last a long time. Notably, a part of the agreement was that Nike would actively promote Clark and soon release her signature shoe. As much as the dollar figure, this could have been a big part of Caitlin's motivation to tie her fortunes to Nike rather than some of the competing companies. It was also expected that the brand will keep putting out smart and catchy ads featuring Clark in her new surroundings, this helping her establish her credentials at the pro level and keeping the hype machine humming. While it may be true that Nike is a global sports company that has athletes from many different sports under contract to care about, basketball remains its bread and butter, so Caitlin's signing seemed like a logical start of the next chapter in the long history of hoop stars who proudly wore the swoosh and identified with the brand. It turns out the deal may have looked better in theory than it does in practice, since Nike hasn't exactly been rushing to do any marketing activities with Caitlin, beyond having her wear existing Kobe Bryant shoes with some customizations. Ever since Caitlin was drafted, her main sponsor has chosen to stay quiet and not launch any major promo efforts with her as the centerpiece. Even worse, she has been completely absent from Nike's social media feeds, despite doing notable things on the court all season long. Only after her Rookie of the Year win was announced did Nike put out a tweet referencing all the records she broke while wearing the Fever jersey, but this was long overdue and listed only the biggest accomplishments in a summary fashion. Why didn't a company with such profound marketing expertise find it fitting to support Clark in real time as she was chasing the records and congratulate her once she broke them? It seems incompetent at the very least, and Caitlin can't be thrilled with how she was treated by her main commercial partner this year. The promise of a signature shoe is currently on hold, and nobody knows how long we will have to wait before we see the first official product of the collaboration between Nike and Caitlin Clark. As of late 2024, there is still no official release date announced for the launch, despite the fact that Clark is extremely popular and there is palpable demand in the market. In effect, Nike is treating Clark like just another rookie female baller and failing to recognize her unique appeal in the US marketplace, and is instead taking a more cautious approach by waiting to see Caitlin succeed in the WNBA before throwing the full weight of its promotional machinery behind her. Well, it's now clear that she is an elite performer in the WNBA, so there is no reason for Nike to drag their feet. Let's get back to the matter of the delayed signature shoe. and try to explain why it matters so much. Only a handful of basketball players ever get their namesake shoes, so this is a privilege reserved for the creme de la creme. This is true for NBA players, but even more on the WNBA side, where just a few select players are rewarded with signature shoes. To wit, only a dozen women ever had signature shoes, and not all of those came from Nike. If we are talking about current WNBA players with signature shoes available to buy, there are only two. Sabina Ionescu, who had her Nike shoe released in 2023, and her Liberty teammate Breanna Stewart, who is donning Pumas designed just for her. That's it, just two players, both of whom play in New York City. Even three-time MVP Aja Wilson is still waiting for Nike to release her shoe, although that is slated to happen in 2025. By forcing Caitlin Clark to wait her turn, Nike is doing two highly questionable things at once. It is failing to recognize that Caitlin is the new face of the WNBA and the pillar of worldwide promotion of female sports. The company is also proving again that it doesn't care too much about women's basketball in general, and that it doubts that WNBA will ever be as much of a moneymaker as the NBA has been for a long time. The best example is the pay gap between Clark and NBA's top young phenom Victor Wembanyama, who reportedly got a first contract from Nike that exceeds the $100 million threshold. Oh, and Wemby did get his first signature sneaker already as a rookie, proving that it can be done logistically when there is a willingness to act. In fact, Nike has a long and glorious history of jumping the gun and launching shoes for very young players. Back in the day, it was a pioneering company capable of recognizing the next big thing and acting before any competitors made a move. With the Air Jordan shoe line, Nike basically defined the modern business model where top basketball players are given the chance to wear unique designs and treated as partners in the joint marketing venture. Experienced sports journalist Jason Whitlock remembers the days when Nike was at its zenith and laments the failure of the company to seize the moment and launch the Caitlin Clark shoe to coincide with her ascent to the top of the league.
Caitlin Clark's in her first NBA playoffs, first NBA season, and she's wearing Kobe Bryant shoes. They don't even have a shoe for her. And it may not be till 2026, 2027. LeBron James had his own signature shoe his rookie year. So 20 years ago, Nike was nimble enough and had enough vision to see that, hey, let's get LeBron's shoe out here. This guy's going to be a big deal. They can't do this for Caitlin Clark for some reason.
Some people will tell you that it takes a long time to design a new shoe, and that may be true. But Whitlock pointedly reminds us that Nike has the means to do it quickly when it sees a specific player as a priority. Obviously, the big bosses at Nike decided that Clark was not worth it, at least not until she proves that her college glory will translate to tangible WNBA success. By the time she started playing like a seasoned pro, posting incredible stat lines and eventually leading her team to the playoffs, it might have already been too late to get a shoe into the stores before the season's end. At this point, it might be fair to ask, did Nike lose its golden touch and start acting in a risk-averse way? Did the famous company hesitate for too long and let an amazing opportunity slip away? Nike should be more thankful for having Clark among its sponsored athletes. Caitlin Clark certainly didn't lack for competitive endorsement offers, as she was coming into the draft as a likely top pick, so it wasn't a given that she would stay with Nike. She did face additional pressure to get some kind of financial security because her WNBA contract only pays her around $300,000 over 4 seasons. Since she already had a name and likeness deal with Nike while at Iowa, Caitlin may have been inclined to accept their lucrative offer, trusting that she will get the treatment she deserves. She tends to be a loyal person, and she clearly enjoys playing in Nike shoes, even if they are from Kobe's line rather than her own. Just listen to her gush about a custom colorway of the Kobe shoe she was given.
It's pretty cool. It's got I feel like it's fever, but it's also Iowa, so you get the best of both worlds. I have another one that you'll probably see me wear later on that is even more fever, so just wait for that one.
When Caitlin was weighing her options, taking Nike's offer just seemed like a slam dunk. After all, Nike is the leading basketball shoe company, and it counts most of the current NBA and WNBA elite among its protégés. Taking the most money while following in Jordan and Kobe's footsteps looked like a move that got Caitlin set for the better part of her career. The mainstream media struck a congratulatory tone and touted the deal as a landmark for female sports. This soundbite from ABC pretty much sums up how everyone was feeling when Nike signed Caitlin Clark.
And while Caitlin Clark's jersey is sold out, you could soon buy her shoes. shoes. The Wall Street Journal is reporting she signed an 8-year, $28 million deal with Nike for a signature shoe line. It's the biggest known deal for a women's basketball player and would make her only the 4th WNBA player with a shoe deal.
Nike did offer the biggest total at $28 million, while its main rival Adidas had an underwhelming offer of just $6 million, and Puma got out of the bidding once the price started rising. The most competitive offer came from the Under Armour brand, which offered $16 million over 4 years, a higher per-year number than Nike, but on a shorter scale. Without the safety net of a guaranteed multi-million contract from her team, Clark may have felt compelled to value long-term guarantees above all else, and this could have been the deciding factor that allowed Nike to close the deal. Looking back at the numbers with full awareness of how well Clark has played, Nike might have gotten a bargain of the century. The wisdom of signing such a long contract at just 22 years of age is questionable, even if the security is appealing. Caitlin didn't have a ton of negotiating leverage as a rookie, so it might have been to her benefit to sign a shorter deal and get herself into a position to renegotiate after a few years when her superstar status is already well established. Switching brands mid-career is pretty common in the NBA, with Kobe from Adidas to Nike, and Kyrie Irving from Nike to Chinese brand Anta as prominent examples. By accepting a long deal at a price point defined before she played her first pro game, Caitlin might have cost herself tens of millions in the long run. When her current shoe contract expires, she will already be 30 and approaching the back end of her prime. Yes, it's true that no female basketball player has a bigger endorsement deal, but Caitlin is having such an outsized impact on WNBA that she deserves to be compared to NBA players when it comes to marketing value. Let's not forget that LeBron James and Kevin Durant have lifetime contracts with Nike that have them making more money per year that Caitlin will collect in 8 seasons. It wasn't realistic for Clark to reach anything near that level as a rookie, but if she wins a couple of championships over the next few years, she could potentially be worth as much as top NBA stars. In fact, if we look at the booming attendance numbers and TV viewership, it could be argued that Clark is currently the most dynamic force in sports marketing in America. As an established league, the NBA is less dependent on superstars like James or Durant to generate fan interest, and it would stay just as popular if they decided to retire. At the same time, many of the young stars that are currently dominating in the NBA are foreign-born, so they don't have quite the same buzz in the US as Clark with her Midwestern charm. Caitlin is magically creating new fans for WNBA out of thin air, and many of them want to get all the latest merchandise associated with her, including basketball shoes. Popular sports analyst Dan Patrick has been one of the voices of reason all season long when it comes to Caitlin Clark coverage, and he immediately saw the potential in Nike's partnership with Clark. On his internet show, he explains why the ongoing growth of women's basketball will be highly profitable for companies smart enough to sign elite performers like Caitlin Clark. He wisely points out that Clark is a role model to an entire generation, much more than any of her WNBA peers.
It's genius to be able to sign her up because think of all of the girls and women out there who loved Caitlin Clark, going to continue to follow her in the WNBA, and they're going to want to have her shoe. But the Sabrina Ionescu, that's the shoe. That's been the shoe the last couple of years. She plays for New York, but Caitlin Clark, she could have a line of shoes.
It's hard to argue against these arguments, and Clark will probably have her own line of shoes when it's all said and done. However, that process has to start, and this has been largely a lost year for Nike's relationship with Clark. It's not only the money at stake, as we explained earlier. Having a signature shoe is a matter of prestige between top basketball players. That's why Clark should be pushing to get the first release out without further delays, and to have as many versions of Nike Clark, or whatever the shoes will be called, as possible. Waiting for another year to see the first fruits of this collaboration would be excruciating for all involved, not the least for Caitlin herself. Nike could have other valid reasons to speed up the timeline in addition to making Caitlin and her fans happy. At the moment, the sports equipment giant is not doing so well in the sales department, and its stock price has been trending down in response. 2024 has been a tough year for Nike, and investors are not happy. And as a consequence, the company might be getting too conservative to make a bold move and try to turn around its sluggish receipts. Here is how Yahoo Finance analyst explained Nike's current struggle to stay financially stable in adverse market conditions.
I think the results, if you look at revenue down 10%, earnings down more than 25%, really highlight some of the pressures in the business currently. You see Nike taking proactive actions to reduce classics footwear inventory in the marketplace.
Perhaps one of the reasons why Nike has de-emphasized WNBA and Caitlin Clark is the need to tighten the belt. But this could be a counterproductive attitude that's causing more harm than good. Instead of seeing Caitlin's shoe as a risk, Nike should have made it a big deal and created new sales from a demographic that doesn't normally spend on this type of product. The company is still well positioned to earn a fortune on Clark's fame, but it urgently needs to stop stalling and push all of its chips to the middle of the table. With Caitlin firmly under contract for years to come, Nike could turn its fortunes around, but only if it realizes that she is one of the most valuable assets under its control and starts acting accordingly. Sadly, there is nothing Caitlin can do now to change this situation except asking Nike nicely. Once she accepted the long-term contract, she placed her future in Nike's hands, and that can't be reversed. The time to take control was when she was signing the contract and had alternatives at her disposal. Talking about what-ifs, it's fascinating to think that she could have made about $500,000 more the first year had she chosen to sign with Under Armour, and the smaller brand might have granted her more power to do things her way. Under Armour was very serious in its pursuit of Clark, and reportedly Steph Curry was involved in the chase. Here is how the well-connected NBA insider Shams Charania presented the negotiations between Clark and the most serious challenger to Nike's bid.
So she met with 3 finalists. Under Armour, Stephen Curry was part of that pitch meeting. I'm told the plan in that scenario would have been for her to be a part of Under Armour and Curry brand and possibly wear Curry brand.
Given how often Clark is compared to Curry due to her style of play and happy demeanor on the court, this could have been a great match. Following in the footsteps of the greatest shooter ever would have made more sense for Clark than attempting to become the next Jordan. Under Armour may not be as big of a name as Nike, but it still has a large enough marketing budget to promote Caitlin and her shoe vigorously, and with Curry's guidance, this could be enough to push Clark to the next level of superstardom. Knowing what we know now, Caitlin might have been better off during her early years with Under Armour, and then she would get her freedom to switch to another shoe brand or even start her own if she wants to. We will never know how that would have looked like. And for better or for worse, Caitlin is stuck with Nike for the next 8 years. From her perspective, there is no reason to be super unhappy since she is still getting a decent paycheck. And after a strong rookie year that saw her finish 4th in MVP voting and be named to first-team All-WNBA, she is in a good position to make some demands from her sponsors. If she can get Nike to play along and have her shoe ready within months, the partnership could end up working for both sides eventually, despite the slow start. One thing that Caitlin is known for is never panicking when things are not going her way and stubbornly working to get the win. So we should trust that her patience and tact will produce favorable results on the business side as well. On the other hand, Caitlin's fans who are eager to buy her shoes and other branded items are completely justified in their anger. When Nike gained the endorsement contract with Caitlin Clark, it was well aware of the size of her fan base and how passionate these fans are. After decades of presence in basketball, the company should have been better prepared to handle the Caitlin Clark effect and help her complete her transformation into a cultural icon. There is still time to right the ship, but Nike can't afford to waste any more time and should immediately come up with a new strategy that gives Caitlin priority over anything else. The famous brand could alienate a lot of potential buyers if it keeps acting like it did the past several months, potentially leading to its continued downward spiral and even the loss of the top place in the basketball shoe market. This is not complicated. Caitlin Clark is the best endorser you can wish for, and with proper support, she is going to sell a lot of shoes, but she can't sell what Nike didn't make yet.